Welcome everybody to the Pulse podcast by Patterson Health Center, and we are so excited. This is a new program for Patterson Health Center. We're so thankful to the Harper County Health Foundation for helping to raise money to bring dialysis to Harper County. So far, they've raised $167,233, so just over 71% of their goal of $200,000, which is pretty incredible. Yes.
Amazing.
But they are still raising money, so if you would like to donate, just go to hcohf.org. I'll make sure to post a link on our Facebook page and put a link on this video, but we are so excited that they have taken on this project as their mission to help sustain the lives of people who have kidney failure. So we're so thankful for that. I have Lisa and Dunnae, and they are taking the helm of our dialysis program. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and can you guys kind of tell me about yourselves, like how you got, I know, Lisa, you've been involved in dialysis for a long time, so.
Yes, well, I've been a registered nurse for 32 years, and the majority of that was in ICUs, various ones, but I also did about 6 years of dialysis at Mercy in Springfield in the inpatient dialysis. So I had a lot of more inpatient experience than I did outpatient, but I started a program in Phillipsburg before this. If you're not familiar with that program did not ultimately decide to go on, but I did successfully start it, and so this is my second round at starting an outpatient facility, and I'm just super glad to be here, and everyone has been so kind, and I am just amazed the community support you have for this program.
For sure. And Dunnae is learning about dialysis, and she's going to eventually take over the program. So what have you I know you said this is very different than what you've had before. So what have you learned through this process?
It is very different, actually. So I've actually only been a nurse for a few years. And before that, I worked EMS for about 8 years. So I know emergency medicine. That's kind of my cup of tea. And when they said that they needed somebody for this position, I thought, okay, this will be something new, something different. I like learning new things.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been really interesting. I'm so thankful that Lisa is here because she knows everything.
Making
this transition a lot easier for everybody.
Well, I will just toot your horn and say that she's done amazing. She's going to rock this program, no doubt in my mind. She has picked up stuff so quickly, and so I have 100% faith in her taking over when I leave.
For sure. And so there's a lot of people who don't know, like, why people have to go through dialysis. Can you tell me what end-stage renal failure is? And
yes, so there are several stages of renal failure. You get the CKD, or chronic kidney disease, 1 through 4, and then when they get to 5, that becomes ESRD, or end-stage renal disease. And those are the people that need some sort of dialysis. So there are different kinds of dialysis you can do. You can do peritoneal, which is where they infuse fluid into their stomach and then drain it off, and it pulls the waste products. Or you can do hemodialysis, which is what we do here, and that can be performed in center or at home by the patients themselves and families. So these machines we'll talk about are actually the same ones a patient would use in their home. And so it can be done. So people think it's some big complicated thing, and it kind of is because of all the regulations. But you shouldn't be scared of it because patients actually do this at home who have no medical training. So it can be done. And so what dialysis does is replace the waste product and the fluid filtering job of the kidneys, because your kidneys do get rid of fluid and get rid of waste. So we're taking the patient's blood, about 150 mils, which is about 4 ounces of blood at a time, and pull it off and run it through a dialyzer and clean that blood. And then also, if they have extra fluid on board, we will take the fluid as well. So we weigh them before and after, and they all have an established weight that they're supposed to be at, which is a physician's prescription. And we take off whatever amount of fluid they have over that to get rid of that, because a lot of them don't make any urine at all. Mm-hmm. So some do, and it's just not quality urine because it's not pulling the waste, but either way, we'll take that fluid off if it's there to prevent them from getting into some sort of respiratory issue. So the patient sits for anywhere from 3 to 4 hours, and they sit here 3 times a week in these wonderful, comfortable chairs that were purchased for us. And they can sleep, they can watch TV, they can play on their phone or an iPad, whatever they want to do while they're here. We try to make it as comfortable as possible for them. Room temperature to their liking. We have warm blankets if they're cold. A lot of them get cold when they're on dialysis. And we just provide that kind of comfort for them. We try to make sure that 4 hours is not completely miserable for them. Some patients feel really poorly after dialysis because we've taken all that waste off and they just feel tired and worn out. Other people, it doesn't seem to affect them, but a lot of people will go home and take a nap afterwards. So if you think about spending your time 4 hours and by the time we get them on and off, it's closer to 5 hours, and then being exhausted and wanting to just go home and nap, that pretty much takes your whole day. And so that's another reason we're so glad this program is here, because on top of that, then you'd have to add the travel time to Wichita. Right. So these patients are very lucky to have this and not have to drive anymore, and the transportation bus take them, and them, depend on somebody for a ride. So it is a very needed program, and we have found through this that apparently we have quite a few patients around the area. So it seems like every time I get a phone call, it's another patient. So we're so glad that we get to serve them. We're not glad that they have end-stage renal disease, but we are glad that we're here to serve them, and we'll try to make it as easy on them as possible. Right.
And so right now we have 1 patient and we plan to add more. So what needs to happen before we can do that?
Okay, so we have to be accredited by an accreditation service, which is called ACHC. They're the ones that do it in lieu of Medicare. So they will come in and do a complete survey of the unit, all of the equipment, the policies. They'll watch us put a patient on, take a patient off, and all of that has to be within line, and then we will, within 10 days, we get a decision of that. Now, once we get that decision that we're accredited, we will be able to add more patients, because right now we cannot add any more patients because we're running this patient for free. That is part of the requirements to get accredited. You have to have a patient on service. So we will not add any more until we can bill. So that date will come in probably August or September, and then we'll start adding about 1 patient every week or 2 until we get full. So, and I do believe that 8 patients is our full, and I do believe that there are 8 patients out there. So I don't think it's going to be hard to ramp this program up at all.
And I think, like you're saying, it's kind of a need that we really didn't know that many people needed.
Yeah, it's truly been a build it and they will come.
Right.
So, we thought we might have 4 or 5, and we have 8 plus for sure. Mm-hmm. There are several patients that have been added recently. I know one of the physicians said they added 2 patients from surrounding cities in the last couple of weeks, and then I got a call about another one today. So they are out there, and I'm really excited to be able to offer the service for them without them driving.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. And so you were kind of talking about the machines. Mm-hmm. So can you kind of tell me how they work? And they're kind of a new thing.
They are. These were actually built for home dialysis, and then within a couple of years, they realized that they were also useful in the hospitals, and that it's actually because of this machine that we can do dialysis here. So part of dialysis is water quality. So in order to run a machine other than the Tableau, you would have to have a water room that has a water softener, a reverse osmosis, all of this to treat the water before it gets to the machine. That is a huge expense for any hospital, let alone a small facility like us. So that actually in itself would prevent us from doing dialysis. These machines do all of that water room right in the bottom by itself, so we don't have to hook it to anything. The water comes into the machine fixes the water and sends it through the dialysate, and we don't have to do anything to it except check and make sure it's functioning correctly, which of course the machine has all those safety backups, but that is what allows us to do this, and that's what allows the patient to do it at home, because they don't have to have any plumbing changes or anything. It literally hooks to the faucet like a garden hose, and that's it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So these machines don't run as fast as some of the other machines on the market. So some people have the false belief that they won't clear the blood as much because we're running the blood at a slower rate. That is completely false. These machines actually clear them better, so we can sometimes actually back them down from a 4 hour to maybe a 3.5 hour if their labs look good. So, and so far our patient's looking really good. So I'm really impressed with that. It may have something to do with the machine. It may have something to do with the dialyzer we're using, but either way, I'm happy. So,
right.
Yeah, so there's a lot to these machines. And so what they do, see the red and blue handles back there. So what those do is we put a straw in them and put them into a bucket of a gallon jug of fluid. So one of them is an acid, and that is based on what their potassium levels run. So if they have run really high, we would do a 0 potassium dialysate, and then if they run low, we'll go on a 4. So it goes all in between. And then the other gallon is a base or bicarb, and so the machine takes those two fluids, mixes them together with the water, and that becomes the dialysate. And so the dialysate runs through a dialyzer, and the blood runs through the dialyzer, but they never touch. They're on opposite sides of a membrane. So that causes that pressure to pull the waste products and the fluid out of it, and then it sends it out the bottom of the dialyzer and to the drain. So that's all it does.
Oh, wow.
There's not any, the blood does not go in the machine. It's only in the cartridge that we use, and then we dispose of that and of the dialyzer. So it's all single-use stuff. Nothing's reused. Some facilities do reuse and reprocess dialyzers, but I don't see any need.
Right.
It's a big risk. So we don't do that, but every patient gets set up. We get the machine set up before they get here, and then we get their access, and then we get them on as soon as we can because they're always wanting to go home. So we try to do that. So that's a kind of oversimplified probably, but that is what the machine does.
That's awesome. And I know that our staff, we have different people who have come in to talk to the patient. So who all does come in? I know it's not every time they can sleep and all that, just to do assessments and everything like that.
So we have our nephrologist will come and meet with the patient periodically, and then we've also got an APRN working with us, Maddie Passett. She's going to come and see our patient on the off weeks when the nephrologist is not there. We also work closely with a social worker, and our dietitian Lakin is here as well. Kind of a whole group team. Everybody comes in. If the patient has any questions, any concerns, he's welcome to ask them at any time, he or she. And if we don't know an answer, we'll consult with whoever we need to find it. And provide education. I mean, we're always learning. They're always learning about, especially like dietary needs. That's something that a lot of folks don't understand.
And that's great to have Lakin here to really
offer
guidance. And
she's amazing. And I will just add that the social worker is the one that sees each patient and can determine if there's financial assistance, whether it's getting them on Medicare or Medicaid, or and also they work on getting them on the transplant list if the patient is interested and is a candidate. So they work on that side of the stuff, and that all goes through like KU and all that. So so they're the ones that initiate that, and that's their responsibility, not nursing. So I don't know a whole lot about the process because it is a social worker thing, but they are responsible for that.
But it's great to have a team that everybody has their own different thing that they can help the patient with.
Yes, and that's called an interdisciplinary team, and that or IDT for short. And we have to meet with the patient 30 days within admission, and then at 90 days, and then it's just yearly, and as long as they're stable. If they become unstable, then we start over, or we do them monthly, whatever we need to do to try to get the patient back in line with their labs or what their mobility, or if they're having an illness, to try to get that worked out. So we are definitely a team effort, and on that patient's side that they can ask to see the dietitian or the social worker at any time, and they have to come and visit. So they're welcome to do that.
That is so awesome.
Yes.
All right, and I'm trying to think of anything else we missed. I want to reiterate that if people do want to donate, we still need to make this a sustainable program.
Yeah, so we've done good to get the start up, but then, there's going to be some things going on. I know a few of the things that we're working on is trying to get a walkway handrail out here so that the patients have something to guide them in if they're having, difficulty walking. And then some more additional signage just to show the family and patients or visitors where they need to go. We will have some dedicated parking out here in the ER for just the dialysis patients. So we want to make sure that they have the ability to get in quickly and not have to walk, and because some of them do have trouble with that. So those are kind of a couple of things that we're working on for future, but pretty quickly kind of things, because we want to get those done.
For sure. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.